Hello and welcome to another episode of the FemiNinja Project. And I have such an inspirational, wonderful, fascinating, and very entertaining woman with me today. Her name is Laura Bratten. She is a keynote speaker and author who is passionate about empowering others to live courageously through a strong foundation of grit and gratitude. Laura has her own story of grit and resilience as she was diagnosed with an eye disease at the age of 9 and had to face the difficult reality that she would become blind. Over the next 10 years, she experienced the traumatic transition of adjusting to life without sight. She is the author of the book titled Harnessing Courage and the founder of the UB Global, an organization which provides speaking and coaching to empower people to overcome challenges and obstacles with grit and gratitude. Laura, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, it's such an honor to talk to you. I've been looking forward to this for a very long time since we scheduled it. So you have the
Great.
most amazing story and, talk about courage. That really that's what when I talked to you and when I was reading your bio, it's like you are probably one of the most courageous people I think I've ever met.
So, my definition of courage might be different than typically what you think of as courage. I define courage, and this is all through my lived experience, is the
Hmm.
balance of both acknowledging the grief of the
Mm.
change that we're going through while also choosing to move forward.
Hmm.
So it's not one or the other. It's not grief that shuts us down and we just stop. Also, it's not just moving forward. I'm just going to be strong. I'm just going to push forward, get through this, grin and bear it. Is the balance of acknowledging and sitting in the pain while also choosing to move forward. And that's incredibly difficult.
Yeah, well, yeah, it certainly is. And what I really want to go back then is you were diagnosed at the age of 9.
Yes.
So, I mean, at the age of 9, how do you even fully understand?
So that was the gift of being a 9-year old. I didn't fully understand.
Mm.
So, one major moment that still stands out in my mind's eye is when my parents and we were with a retinal pediatric specialist at Emory in Atlanta when she was giving us this diagnosis of, your daughter has a very rare retinal disease. We're not sure at what rate, we're not sure the speed that her vision will decrease. She
Mm.
will lose most of her sight, but we don't know, we can't predict how fast or how much or how old she'll be. Even though I can still hear that and I can see the doctor standing there and telling my parents this news and telling me, I couldn't comprehend it as a 9-year old because all I knew was I can see in the moment.
Hmm.
I'm normal, quote, normal in the moment. So in my 9-year old brain, I heard that. And my literal response, and my parents will tell you this all these years later, we walked out of the room, the doctor's office, and we get on the elevator to go to the parking garage to drive the 2 hours home. And I said, well, can we stop at Starbucks? I want a tea. And my parents, we can laugh about it now, but they're like, we just got life-changing news about you, and all you are focused on is getting a Starbucks. And so that's why I say that was the gift of a 9-year old. I
Mm.
couldn't process it. When I
Hmm.
could process it was 4 or 5 years later at the end of middle school.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is there was a very clear moment when I realized the reality of that doctor's appointment.
Hmm.
So I'm sitting in geography class, and the teacher says, get out your notebook and start copying down the notes on the board.
Oh.
So I take out my notebook, I grab my pen, I look up at the board, And all I saw was this like black, shadowy blob, sort of. It's hard to describe because it didn't look like anything. It didn't look like shapes. It didn't look like letters. There was nothing defined about it. So I looked back down my book, looked back up at the board, and that's still all I saw. So I leaned over to my neighbor who was writing down all the notes. And I said, "How are you copying down the notes on the board? There's nothing to write down."
Oh,
Her response changed me forever. She just casually leaned back over and said, "Laura, what are you talking about? The print is completely normal."
oh,
That's when that doctor appointment when I was 9 became real, because then I realized I just lost a significant amount of sight. And so that the diagnosis was real. I was not going to have perfect 20/20 vision forever.
mm-hmm. Now, this retinal disease, did it obviously it was both of your eyes?
Yes. Yes. It was equal in both eyes. Yeah.
And is this a genetic thing? Is it just the luck of the draw, so
Is
to
the luck
speak?
is yes, it's the luck of the draw. It is not genetic. We've done the family tree on both sides as
Mhm,
far back as humanly possible. It's not genetic. It's not anything I inherited. It's just
mhm,
something, a specific gene pair within my body mutated, and that mutation caused the retinal disease. There's no other health concerns. A lot of times blindness is related to diabetes, or cancer in the eye, or cancer in the
mhm.
brain, or head trauma, kidney disease. There's absolutely nothing. My blood work, my everything, all my numbers are absolutely perfect except for the cells in my retina. So, and this was in 92, 93. So there wasn't the genetic testing that's available now.
Mhm.
Even now, the testing that I have done and continue to do, the gene has not been discovered. So it's
Wow.
incredibly rare.
Wow. Okay, so now let's go back to that day in school where, the everything you couldn't see anything and no words, nothing on the blackboard. From that moment on, like you said, it became real.
Yes.
So going through that transition of was it a gradual loss of sight? Was it, accelerated? Was it good days, bad days? And how did that happen and how did you cope with it?
So it was gradual and it was quick all at the same time. And what I mean is I would lose a significant amount and then it would stay there for a while. And
Mm-hmm.
then I would lose a significant amount and then it would stay there for a while. So over the course of high school, by the end of high school, so I lost a lot during high school. By the end of high school, I had pretty much what I have now, just light perception, no usable vision. As far as coping, that was the hardest part.
Yeah.
So my instant response was denial.
Mm.
This is not going to last that long. I'm going to wake up one day and it's going to come back just like I lost it. Oh, I'm not going blind. I'm just losing a little bit of vision. Denial was
Mm-hmm.
that was my first coping, both reaction and just the way I could cope.
Mm-hmm.
Once the denial wore off, my mindset, my mantra was, I can't, I can't, I can't, I can't.
Mm.
I cried it, prayed it, screamed it. That was just my headspace. My mindset was, this is too hard. I just want to be a normal teenage girl. I just want to be able to keep doing dance class every day after school. I want to keep riding my bike like all the other girls and kids in the neighborhood. I don't like this. I don't have the strength. This is too much.
Mm. Now, what about your parents? Because they must have been going through some stuff too as you were going through it. Because to watch your child, I mean, even if you have a kid that's got a bad cold, I mean, that's
Yeah.
pretty tough to deal with. So this is like, how did they handle all of this?
So they absolutely had to go through their own grief process of how do we now raise this child and
Mm-hmm.
support her. What I mean by the grief process is support me as I'm going through this major loss. How do
Mm-hmm.
we now parent her in a completely new way than we had been the first 15 years of her life?
Mm-hmm.
The gift that they also had was survival. And again,
Mm-hmm.
what I mean by that, the reason that was a gift is in the midst of the grieving, we had to keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
I have one older brother. He's 5 years older. So he was applying to colleges and they were visiting colleges as I'm depressed and anxious.
Oh.
They obviously had two full-time jobs and parents that were aging that they had to care for. So life was still happening.
Mm-hmm.
We still just had to keep going. And the gift that they gave me, and they very much say it now, as you said, it's hard to watch a kid with a cold. They would say now it was heartbreaking for us to do this, and we felt mean doing it, but we just had to keep going day by day by day by day. That was how we grieved. And that's why I define courage that way, because that was our lived experience. So
Mm-hmm.
the gift that they gave me was they didn't lower their standards for me. They didn't treat me as their quote disabled child and then they had their normal child.
Mm-hmm.
They treated me as their child who was always their child. I just couldn't see as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that the reason that's such a gift because that taught me in my teenage brain as I'm overwhelmed with depression, anxiety, that taught me you are still you.
Mm-hmm.
You are still a person who is worthy, who is enough, who matters in this world with gifts, with purpose. Yes, you need accommodations. Yes, you have to do things in a different way. Things take you longer, and you're still an equal human.
Mm-hmm.
Playing victim or the pity, that's not who you are, and that's not who we are going to be as a family.
Mm-hmm.
And again, a very, very, very practical example of this is in those early high school days, I thought, oh, and I'm still in that mindset of I can't. I would thought, oh, well, maybe I can just use this blindness as an excuse, just to get out of everything I don't want to do. So one night in the kitchen, my mom said, okay, Laura, it's time to unload the dishwasher. I thought, oh, I'm so smart. I'm going to get out of all my chores at home. And so I said, Mom, I can't unload the dishwasher because I can't see exactly where to put the silverware in the silverware drawer to line up the forks, the knives, spoons, the bigger spoons. So I just can't unload the dishwasher. And she just turned around and looked at me and used the first and last name, Laura Bratton, unload the dishwasher. And then she
Yes,
just
ma'am.
walked out of the kitchen. And at the time, I was like, you're so mean. But that was the greatest gift she could have given me.
Mm-hmm.
Because what she was saying to me in that moment was, yes, Laura, the silverware might not be perfectly aligned and straight in the drawer like a sighted person would do it, but you absolutely can unload the dishwasher and put the silverware in the silverware drawer. So she was teaching me through her actions you can't use your disability as an excuse as victim.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to learn it's just your new normal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the incredible gift both of my parents gave me through those high school adjusting years.
Okay, so I have two things to say. The first one is when you were describing that, the courage, that it was just what you do with the grief and you move on. And as you were just, explaining it, it was just so beautiful to hear. And all I could think of was, oh my goodness, that is such amazing introspection and self-awareness and maturity, especially, for a teenager to be able to come up with this and have that type of outlook. And then you went from that story to the one about the typical teenage response. So I don't have to unload the dishwasher. I can't see the silverware so well. It
Yeah.
was just so funny, the dichotomy of both of those
Yes.
situations.
So my definition of courage did not come as a teenager. It came years and years
Oh,
later.
okay.
Let me make that very clear. I was not feeling courageous and would not define courage in that way as a teenager. Absolutely not. Don't give me that much credit.
So now, when you were still, in high school, were you able
Yeah.
to graduate with your class, or did you have to
Yeah.
take special courses, or how did that go?
Yeah. So I was able to graduate with my class on time. What I did, and this plays into the whole accommodations while continuing to move forward, what I did do is to graduate on time, where cognitively I was on the track to be in the honors or the AP classes. Just because of the logistics of I had to learn Braille,
Mm,
just the double time on my test, just the time it took to complete the schoolwork. I dropped back to different level classes so that those classes I could complete because of the blindness.
hmm
So that was the accommodation I had to make. That because I was experiencing so much emotionally and physically,
hmm
I had to go to a different type of class, a different, just regular, like college. I don't even know what they call it now. Then it was CP, college prep um, class, so that I could finish school on time and
hmm
complete everything on time. So that's one very real world practical example of accommodations.
hmm And now then, where did you go for undergrad?
So I went to Arizona State, and that was very, very specific because of the blindness.
hmm
So, because being blind was new to me, my family, we knew nothing about it. We didn't know the resources that were out there available. I had to go to school somewhere that was already equipped for people with disabilities, specifically blindness. And Arizona State, being one of the largest universities, they have a large disability department. So people with disabilities, all type, physical, learning, they are completely integrated into the college system. So, for example, my major was psychology. I took all the normal psychology classes. The only difference was I got double time on tests because it takes me longer.
hmm
I got a note taker. Another student would be my note taker so that anything that was put up on the board, I could get a copy of. So I wasn't missing any of the information.
hmm
So that was the reason for ASU, because they could teach me the resources I needed. They could teach me, yes, you get your textbooks in PDF format rather than the normal print. So that goes in to the courage, to the grit.
hmm And so then you graduated and you went on to get your master's degree, or?
Yes. So the reason for that is, as I went through the psychological, emotional healing process personally, I realized it was not just psychological. It was
hmm
not just spiritual. It was not just physical learning Braille. It was all of that connected. It was the mind, body, spirit connection that brought the healing. So once I completed studying psychology undergrad, then I wanted to go on to my master's and focus on the spiritual aspect so I could learn how to connect the two, because I knew in my own experience the healing was deeply connected.
hmm And so when you got your graduate or your master's degree, then What did you do? I mean, did you start teaching right away, coaching? What happened after that
So
as
my
far as
focus,
professional?
yeah, my focus was chaplaincy. So I knew that going in, as I went into grad school, I wanted that to be my focus.
Hmm.
And the reason, again, that reason is very specific to my life experience. I wanted to be that presence that worked with people in a hospital setting, that as they're facing surgery, recovering from surgery, cancer diagnosis, going through chemo, radiation, transplant, whatever it might be, I was the representative to say, and the person to say, yes, this is incredibly difficult, and you still matter. You still have gifts to give to this world, that you are enough. Yes, you're in intense pain now. We're not minimizing that, but that's circling back to the courage. That's the grief and the moving forward all at one time. And it was fascinating. A gift that I realized in the chaplaincy was patients were quicker to open up to me as
Mm.
I walked into the room and introduced myself as a chaplain, compared to other chaplains that would walk in the door. So it was the first week, it was the Friday afternoon of our first week of chaplain, our internship, our first like 6 or 8 weeks of training as a chaplain while we're still in our master's program.
Hmm.
And we're going around the table, and each chaplain saying, yeah, we talked, the weather. They told me about their grandkids coming to visit. They're so excited about, and everyone's going around, and it gets to me, and I'm like, yes, they told me about their suicidal attempt, their eating disorder, and I mean, all these deep, difficult, painful situations.
Hmm.
And it wasn't my awareness. It was the awareness of our instructor saying, Laura, do you realize what's happening? And I said, no, not at all. I just walk into the room and everyone's opening up to me. And she said, Laura, when you walk in the room with you and your guide dog, they have no idea you've gone through the transition of losing your sight. They know you're a person that gets difficulty, that gets
Hmm.
adversity, and has to live it every day. So they are willing to trust you on a level that anyone else who walks in that room, they don't necessarily have that connection, but you give them that gift of connection.
Hmm.
And so she taught me in that experience, she said, use that and realize that is a gift. That yes, as you walk in the room and introduce yourself as a chaplain, you are giving them that instant gift of, I get suffering, I get pain. And as she shared that, that was an incredible moment of perspective for me, because it helped me realize, yes, I don't like this blindness. Yes, I would change it tomorrow if I could. Yes, I wish it would instantly magically come back. And there are gifts and opportunities that I would not have if I still had full sight.
Hmm. And just the ability to be able to connect with people at that organic, visceral level,
Yes.
and have that connection.
Yes.
The the help and the hope that you
Yes.
give them, it's not something that can be learned from a book or a
Right.
textbook. It's
100%.
something
Yes.
that is like deep in the heart. It's embedded
Yes.
in your soul.
Yes. It's a
And
lived
people know
experience.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
Ye-
They know that. I mean, just
Yes.
probably even just, walking in and not even saying a word, you can
Right.
see it in a person's, you
Yes.
see empathy.
Yes. Yes. It just, you can feel it in the energy. Yes. I
Absolutely.
completely agree. I completely agree. So that was an incredible gift of perspective that I had of,
Mhm.
there's that gift of connection, just as you were saying, that empathy.
Mhm.
One funny story that I have to laugh at now looking back. In one visit, I went in and I had a great visit with a patient and it went really well. And this was at the end of our internship.
Hmm.
And so at the end of the 6 or 8 weeks, and she just said, "Oh, thank you so much for coming. I just, since you've been here, I feel so peaceful. I feel so calm." And of course, where's my 23-year-old mind going? Oh, look at me. I'm just finishing this master's program. I'm such a great chaplain. And the next words out of her mouth were, "Your guide dog did everything."
Okay. As a devout dog lover myself, I just think that is absolutely priceless.
It was priceless. I laughed so hard. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that was perfect. That was so what I needed." Like when that 23-year-old needs a little humbling. It's
Kind of
not about you.
took you down a
Not,
peg or two, huh?
yeah, not about you as the chaplain at all, but it's all about this cute 54-year-old black lab sitting beside you.
Oh, that is just absolutely wonderful. I
Yeah,
just love that story.
it was great.
Okay, so
That was
now
a fun moment.
when you went back to your instructor or whatever and went around the table again to say how things went, did you share that story with your colleagues
Oh,
and
a
your fellow
hundred
students?
percent, 100%. Yes, absolutely. We even made up, in the hospital, you have like a code for everything.
Oh, yes.
So we even made up a code and it was code J. And that meant like the visit was all about the dog. So she was like, "Was it a code J moment or did you actually do something?"
Oh, that is awesome.
We had so much fun laughing at it. Yeah,
Oh,
that
my
was
goodness.
great.
Now, so are you still working as a chaplain, or is that what
I'm
you're
not.
doing? Or
So
okay.
yeah, so now I'm doing the speaking and the coaching.
Okay. Now, how did you transition then from, the chaplain into the speaking and the coaching? Because that's a pretty big jump. I mean,
Yes.
talking to people one on one in a situation like that, especially when you have a dog to break the ice,
Yeah.
that's a whole different animal, so to speak, than standing up in front of a group on a
Yeah.
stage and
So
talking to a large audience.
yeah, so after the chaplain training, I completed my ordination in the United Methodist Church.
Hmm.
And so for several long time, I was a pastor and still in part time there of a United Methodist Church, and that was a lot of, and still is why I love it and why it's such a great gift, is it's a lot of pastoral care and a lot of focus. So that I've loved that one-on-one connection. Where the speaking comes in is I love being able to speak to the grit and to the gratitude,
Hmm.
because I received such a strong foundation. As I was saying, I can't, I can't, I can't.
Hmm.
What empowered me to move forward was the silverware story. And, my brother still treating me as his annoying little baby sister.
Hmm.
And my friends still treating me like they're friends. That didn't change. So the community around me, the family, the friends, the support, that changed the "I can't" into the "I can."
Hmm.
And I can accept the grit and the gratitude for myself. So the reason for the speaking is that I wanted to give voice so that other people, just like that chaplaincy where it's one on one, I
Hmm.
wanted to give voice so that other people going through change and navigating through major life situation could also be empowered by the same two resources of grit and of
Hmm.
gratitude. So I didn't just want to say, "Okay, I received it. That's great for me." Rather, I wanted to say, "Okay, I received it. Now let me go and share it." So
Hmm.
that's what I do through the speaking and through the coaching one-on-one, is sharing it with other people in the midst of change as they navigate through change.
I just have to ask, was it intimidating at first? I mean, even though, you had the training that you did, the background with being the chaplain and working in a, community, getting on stage is different.
It's different, but I've done it my whole life.
Okay.
So my parents will tell you the story of, a 3-year-old dance recital. I was the one in front leading all the other 3-year-olds.
Oh, I would have, of course you were. I would have been disappointed if you weren't.
Yeah, I had the whole audience laughing because I was the one. And my parents were like, yep, that's my daughter. That's her. So I've always been on stages speaking. I've always been doing that for as long as I can remember. So that's just natural for me.
Well, I have to tell you, getting on stage as a dancer, to me is really easy, but
Yes.
although I had a lot of stage presence and opportunities to perform, blah, 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 when I first got onto a stage as a speaker, it was a whole different story.
It is a different story. Yeah.
And
It's
it's
a
like
completely different story.
if I could just dance and move, that's one thing, but you
Yeah.
want me to open my mouth and sound intelligent?
Right. You have to open and talk and make sentences,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yes, it's totally different. Yes, it's definitely a learned a learned life experience.
Yes. Yeah, and
Not easy.
it turns into a skill, but you've got to do
Absolutely.
it.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
There was a gentleman in town who has passed away. He was quite an elderly gentleman, but very, very passionate about helping people, to start speaking careers. And he used to say, "You don't have to be good to start, but you have to start to be good."
Oh, that's brilliant. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah,
I love that. That is brilliant advice.
yep.
And that's so true.
hmm Yeah, and it does. It gets easier the more you do it, but you have to,
Absolutely. You have to start.
you
Yeah.
gotta, yeah, you gotta
Yeah.
start.
That's
So
the
then,
hardest part.
what um what prompted you to start that? And I'm not sure if I said it correctly in the
Yes, you did.
introduction. You
Yeah,
be
so
yeah.
that is all about the speaking and the coaching. So the book and the organization are all connected together. So the book, the speaking, the coaching are all around how do we use the resources of grit and of gratitude to navigate through change.
hmm
And when I talk about gratitude, I what I'm not referring to is the gratitude of just being positive, just saying thank you all day, being happy, always feeling happy, cheery. Like, that's not the gratitude I'm talking about.
hmm
The gratitude that I've learned through my life experience is being grateful for what helps us navigate through the change.
hmm
So being grateful for my mom that made me unload the dishwasher, you know, like I wasn't as a teenager clearly that night, but looking back, being deeply grateful that she made me do that because she taught me you can still do it. You're still you. I'm deeply grateful for the brother that continued to treat me like an annoying little pestering sister.
hmm
I'm grateful for those moments that help me get and continue to live in the world as a person without sight in the sighted world.
hmm
And the gratitude did not come originally from myself. Like a lot of people just say, oh, did you wake up one day and just feel grateful? I'm like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
As I was so depressed and so incredibly anxious and lived in a state of panic attack and was
Oh.
learning Braille and all that, there was no gratitude. The way it started was a mentor of mine in high school. She said to me, Laura, I want you to start writing down 3 things that you're grateful for every day and you can't repeat. So they have to be very specific from that day. And as she said that in my mind, I was thinking, okay, you are not a good mentor. I don't think, especially with teenagers, you don't need to be advising teenagers because I'm depressed, I'm anxious, and you're telling me to be grateful. Like,
hmm
that's just not good advice. So, again, in my stubborn teenage mind, I was going to prove her wrong. I was going to be her mentor and change change the change the relationship. So I would teach her. And so I started writing down things I was grateful for. And the day became 3 days. And the 3 days became a week. And the week became 3 weeks. And that's when I realized, oh, she's not teaching me to write down that I'm thankful because of the blindness. She's asking me to write down what I'm thankful for that helps me navigate through the blindness. That's
Wow.
completely different. So that's the gratitude that I've learned to cultivate and that I speak on and coach on and write out in my book is how can we as humans have gratitude as a source of healing and a source of strength in the midst of difficulty and adversity and grief and loss.
And that, okay, is the gratitude part. Talk about the grit.
So the way I define grit, I love Angela Duckworth's work on grit. And she talks about grit is those small, manageable goals that lead to the big goal that we're trying to achieve. So for me, in those high school days, I was overwhelmed by the fear of the present and of the future because it was so overwhelming. Obviously, it was so much change at one time. The gift of grit that I realized is it's having that strength moment by moment by moment, day by day by day. So no, in high school, I didn't have to figure out my whole entire future. All I had to do was get through classes, the two classes in the morning, lunch, and then the two classes in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. So an example of that, again, how that played out in those first years, as I was starting my senior year in high school, I had to figure out, like everyone else, where to apply to colleges. And I also had to figure out, was I going to get a guide dog? And if so, what guide dog school would I apply to? Mm-hmm. And then while still having to figure out all the accommodations and navigate through a regular academic normal school year, all that was too much to handle. Mm-hmm. What the grit taught me is, okay, all you have to do today is think about the classes for today. All you have to do tomorrow is think about where you want to apply to college. Mm-hmm. All you have to do on Wednesday is begin the application process to the guide dog school. So breaking it down day by day, moment by moment, section by section, to reach the end goal of graduating from college, receiving a guide dog, going on to college. So that's the grit that I learned. And again, that didn't come from me just waking up and saying, okay, I choose to have grit today. Mm-hmm. It came from the foundation around me, from the teachers that were willing to say, okay, Laura, we'll let you leave class 2 minutes early so you can navigate and get to class safely before the bell rings and the halls are crazy busy and it's difficult for you to navigate. So it was the grit around me that turned that I can't into I can, day by day by day.
Well, even what you were explaining of taking it just like, okay, today I will do this, and little small chunks and bits and pieces of what you can do. This is something, it's a technique that we can all use and apply to our daily 100%. Life.
Yes, absolutely. Just in our human experience. Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's so easy to get overwhelmed when you think of the big picture.
Yes.
When you break it down into small little goals to make for the day, it makes a huge difference. Then it's not like, well, this isn't something that's just too overwhelming. I can do this.
I can do this. I can, I can manageable goals. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of goals, what was the catalyst that made you decide that you wanted to write a book?
Just like the speaking, I was so deeply passionate about, now that I've gone through the transition, the traumatic transition, now that I'm a place of I'm in my new normal and living in my new normal, there's still daily challenges and daily adversity. But now that I'm through the major adapting, I deeply have to share this foundation of grit and of gratitude that I received. So the purpose of the book is so that anyone going through any type of change can pick up and read, and they can learn these resources of learning to accept the new normal, learning to be comfortable in our own skin, learning that we matter, learning self-compassion, learning self-love, regardless of the situation. Mine was blindness, whatever another person's experience is, they can also apply those resources. And that title is very specific. I was very, very deliberate on wanting to name the book and working with my publisher on naming it. So the reason it's Harnessing Courage is both physical and emotional. So a harness is the strap that goes around the dog that then the person holds the handle, and that's the harness that when the guide dog moves forward, obviously the person does too, and that's how they walk together. That's how they connect. Everything, as the teachers say, that everything, the emotional, everything travels through the harness. So the dog is guiding you as you're holding onto the harness. So I named it Harnessing Courage because it took incredible courage to trust that harness, to trust that, like I said, a 54-pound black lab would be my eyes, would keep me safe. So that was one reason. And the other reason for Harnessing Courage was for the emotional part of every single day. And this goes back to the grit. Every single day, I have to choose to harness the courage of moving forward, because it's a constant grief process of acknowledging the loss, acknowledging what I don't have, that what I used to have, I don't have now. So as I continue to both grieve and move forward, that takes incredible courage. And for me, it's courage day by day by day, moment by moment by moment, rather than just saying, oh, I've adapted, I'm adjusted, I've got this whole thing figured out. So I was very specific on the title of the book.
Do you think you might have another book or two in you, or
No.
one's good enough, huh?
Oh, one was great. And it was incredibly healing. I wasn't expecting this, but it was incredibly healing to write out my story. Just to write out and get it down on paper. It was a deeply, deeply healing, a deeply therapeutic. I remember once I finished writing it, just the first manuscript, it hadn't gone to the editor or anything yet. I remember calling my brother and saying, if the editor hates this and says it's terrible, makes me start over, and one person does not read this book, I'm glad I did it, because it was just the healing part for me was enough. And it was incredibly therapeutic.
Nice. That's beautiful. So I want to go back to, that 15-year-old teenager who for the first time is looking at the blackboard and, can't see anything on it. If you could have looked into the future and saw where you are now, if somebody would have told you that, what would you have thought?
In my 15-year-old brain, I would have thought exactly what I was feeling. I can't do this. This is too much. It was so incredibly overwhelming because it affected every single part of my life. It wasn't like, oh, this area is affected and not this area. Yeah, that would have been the same. It's too hard. It's too difficult. It's too much.
And where do you see yourself in the future? Where do you see all of this going? I mean, you've got this wonderful community. I have it written down, UB Global. Where do you see this going for you?
What I would continue to love to do is just continue exactly what I'm doing now. The speaking, the coaching, not another book. That was very, very hard.
We're very clear about that.
Yes, I'm very clear about that.
I've written 2 so far, and I've got 2 more.
But just continuing to focus on the speaking and the coaching, because I realized the gift of perspective, just as it gave me, that it gives other people. In all, like I was sharing about the book, in all different types of walks of life, it gives us a different perspective. And also too, on that, when I keep referring to the grieving and moving forward, where I see this going is giving people permission to grieve. And what I mean by that is, I thought, again, as a teenager starting college, I thought grieving was something we did and then we moved on. It was on our to-do list and then we checked it off the list and moved on. Mm-hmm. And right before, it was a few weeks before I started my freshman fall at college, another mentor said to me, Laura, I just want to let you know you will continue to grieve for the rest of your life. And that's not a weakness. That doesn't mean you haven't accepted your blindness. That doesn't mean you're doing something emotionally wrong. It just means it's a part of your lived experience. And I want to give you permission that that's okay. That grieving because of what you've been through is just part of your now lived experience. And that is okay. That doesn't make you like you haven't done something right or you haven't grieved the right way because you're not done grieving. So she gave me permission to feel, okay, I feel really sad about this. I feel really angry about this. She gave me the power to acknowledge those emotions while continuing to move forward. So that's something in the speaking in the future that I hope and want to continue to focus on, is giving people that permission to grieve their situation. Because we face a lot of hard change. We face a lot of uncertainty, whether that's through death losses or non-death losses. We experience a lot of change, a lot of loss, and we feel like we have to grieve and then just get over it and move on. But the strength is being able to heal and continue forward. So that's my passion with the speaking, that I can give people, empower people with that permission to grieve while also saying, okay, what is that one phone call or who is that one person I can email today that will be enough for today?
Yes, grief isn't just a box that you check and say, okay, done with that and move on. It just doesn't work that way as much as we would like it to.
Right. We want it to, or I wanted it to, but it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I think we all want it
to
work that way, but like I said, it does not work that way.
No, unfortunately, it doesn't.
So how can the listeners connect with you? Where can they find you? Where can they get their book? Maybe learn more about your, I'm going to say it again, UB Mobile.
You're right.
You know, all of that stuff. I mean, it's in the show notes, but I'd really like for you to
so the best way is on my website, laurabratton.com. All the speaking, coaching, book information is there. And then I'm active on LinkedIn. So my website and connecting on LinkedIn are the best places.
Okay, excellent. Laura, thank you so much for being on the show. I have really, really appreciated your time and love hearing your story. And you truly are an inspiration. And I think I still have to say, one of the most courageous people I've ever met.
Thank you. And thank you for this podcast and platform for each of us to share our unique lived experience.
Well, I keep saying that once we share each other's stories, we listen to each other more and we talk to each other more, I think we could make the world a much better place. And we need that right about now. That's all I have to say about that.
Yes, absolutely.
So thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Please share this incredible episode with everyone you know, especially if they need a little bit of a boost of courage, grit, gratitude. I just think that we can make the world a better place and that we can do a better job of taking care of ourselves and that we can all live courageously. And that is the way of the FemiNinja.